screen. Okay, I'm assuming y'all can see my cash flow screen, and y'all let me know if it disconnects. I was about to tell the class that I was asking them how homework was for you live stream people, and everybody's more or less getting the hang of it. But one thing I wanted to tell y'all, when I was in my master's program, I had a professor that knew so much information, finance, and it was it was an 8-week course, so it was pretty compacted and a lot of information. So he allowed us to have, he called it a memory aid. Y'all would call it a cheat sheet if you were sneaking it in, but since I'm letting you, it's not technically a cheat sheet, but I let you have one side of a full piece of paper with notes on it, your notes, whatever you choose to put on there. So if you have trouble remembering the order of the assets or things like that, you put things on there that you need help remembering. Leave the stuff off that you know pretty well. Because my philosophy is, yeah, you should know it, but when you get out in the workplace and you're having to do this stuff, you have so many resources to pull from. You need to know how to do this stuff, don't get me wrong. But if you're having trouble remembering something like that order, make a note of it. Or what goes on what statement. I mean, again, don't rely on that to help you get through. Because if I see that's becoming the case, I'll take that away, that privilege away. But I don't have a problem with it because it was super helpful to me. There was a lot to remember. And again, I mean, when I was in college, we didn't have the internet, so it's kind of like you had to know it or you had to have your textbook with you. But now you've got so many resources to pull from. It's not like you have to memorize everything. Not to mention, even if you do memorize everything, as soon as you leave this class, you're going to be purging it. So use your resources. So anyway, again, don't use it as a crutch not to do your work and study and all that sort of thing. But maybe that'll help you not be too nervous about little things like that. Okay. All right, so we had gotten to the operating activities section of that cash flow statement. So let's finish that real quick because that's going to be, cash flows will be on your homework. It's not going to be extensive, but you're going to have it. So let's just pick up where we left off on that one and finish it. See, I'm using my book because I don't remember every single word of how to word this thing. And so I use my book on this because I know what goes, the order these things go in and which section comes next, but the exact wording of it. I don't remember that. All right, so the next section is going to be cash flows from or used for investing activities. So put your heading on here. So loud. So what are investing activities? What would go on there? Look back in your worksheets and tell me what would go on and what would be an investing activity.
Purchase land.
Yes. Yep. So that's all we're going to have in that one. So they describe this as cash paid. Y'all know what acquire means or acquisition? I've had classes where we're like, I'm not sure about that. It's a big word. And it's kind of like an accounting word. So, I got used to it, but it means like to get something, to obtain something. So cash paid for acquisition of land, that's kind of you could say purchase of land. That would be okay. I would take that if you wrote that. I'd be okay with that. You have to remember, too, that the people that write this book and that are editing this book are old folks or older folks, probably very technical people that, I don't know. I'll take as long as it makes sense and it's, you know, a decent word. Makes sense. Sounds like you know what you're talking about. What happened? Must have touched it. All right, so acquisition of land. So we're gonna put on here, if we only have one item in that section, we're gonna put the amount all the way in that right-hand column, and it was how much? And we're gonna show that in parentheses because that was an outflow of cash. It was used for cash. No, cash from. Okay, so there's no total that we need to put there because it's just one item. So the last section is cash flows from or used for financing activities. If y'all can't read something, let me know. This thing's got a mind of its own. I'm gonna try to erase. I erase too much. All right. So what would be a financing activity?
Opening a bank account.
Yeah. But what was the result? What was that called? Like, yeah, he put cash in to open a bank account, but what would you call that? An owner what? An owner investment. So yeah, you're on. You got the right idea. Cash. Exact words. Cash received from owner's investment. Okay. Oops, that didn't belong there. Disregard the colon. All right, how much was that? 25,000. And then what else would go in there? Anything else the owner did? Cash withdrawal by owner. And it was 2,000, so we're going to show that in parentheses so that we know to subtract it. So that's all for that section. So what's the net of those two? 23,000. And is it to the cash received or cash? What's the net? Is it a plus or minus or? It's an increase, so we're going to not show it as a subtraction. Okay, so we're going to label that net cash flows from financing activities. Okay, so we've got that label there, and we've got all three of our sections now. So let's get a total of all three of those results from each section. So let's add these three together. 2,900 minus 20. Uh-oh. Oh, we had a problem there. Okay, 2,900. Uh-oh. What is going on? Sharing all kinds of stuff. 2,900 minus 20 plus 23. What have we got? 5,900. Does that sound familiar? Does that amount of money sound familiar to you? It does to me because I've done this problem like 10 times. Look on your balance sheet. Where's your cash? So we're going to call this net increase in cash. Okay, if he had been in business prior to this month, all that would tell you is how much your cash went up or down in this month. And what you would do is you would add, you'd say cash balance November 1 Well, it was 0. So there's nothing to put there. You just put a 0, that line thinks I have it. And then you'd add it to this increase. So what you would be doing is taking your beginning balance at the end of the month for cash, add your change in cash for the month. And when you add those two together, that's going to give you your ending cash balance. Well, he didn't have anything at the beginning of the month, so it just works that way. But normally, if you have a business that's been around, they're going to have a beginning cash balance. So if we did one for December, he's going to start with $5,900. We're going to add or subtract, whatever the net change for December is, and that'll give you his December 31 cash. Does that make sense? And like I said, on this one, we're doing what's called the direct method. It's more simple. We'll get deeper into the cash flow statement and accounting too. So you're seeing it and I'm exposing you to it. You kind of need to know what it's about in the sections, but we ain't gonna get into it big till next semester. All right, so plug that before I kill myself on it. All right, so let's move on. Everybody good? Let's move on. We got another problem in here we can work on. Just kind of solidify your knowledge here. Okay, so we've got a practice problem that's real similar to what we did with that whole net solutions thing, except it's a different company, obviously, and we're going to kind of go through the same motions. I don't have a copy of it. I don't have a copy of it in here. Yeah, I do. Good. Second, I'm gonna have to do this bond. Okay, so let's start with these transactions and move to, okay, so we're not going to do the whole increase, decrease, and all that stuff. Well, wait a minute, did I leave that worksheet out of here? I did, didn't I? You should have another page. Okay. Let's do this. Let's just do out next to each one of these, let's just say, let's just make notes about what's increasing, what's decreasing, kind of like we did on that chart. We'll just kind of make notes out to the side. We can do that. Because you should be familiar enough with them now. They're really pretty much the same thing that we did on that last problem. All right, so he opened a business bank account. We've got Chad Wilson with Wilson Property Management. June 1st, he is starting this business. So he opened a business bank account with a deposit of $30,000 from personal funds. I mean, it's almost identical to that last problem. So what would be happening here? What's going to increase? And what's going to, is anything increasing?
Yes.
What? So we're going to have cash increasing. What else is going to be on here? What happens when an owner puts an investment in? What account? The specific one. Don't worry so much about the accounting equation elements in this one. Tell me, like, what's the name of the account that's going to increase? Or if you just know the element, then that's a start. Yeah, capital. So you're going to have Chad Wilson. Chad Wilson Capital. And it's going to increase or decrease? It's going to increase too. Okay, so purchased office supplies on account. Real hot.
Yeah.
It's very hot. So if you purchased office supplies on account, what happened? What's changing? Did he spend money?
Accounts payable.
Accounts payable. All right. So, well, how do you know it's accounts payable?
Well, he bought it on account, like on.
Okay, because it says on account, and he purchased something. Okay, so we've got accounts payable. Is it increasing or decreasing? It's increasing. Okay, so what about, there's gotta be two sides to every transaction, so at least two sides. At least two parts. Hi, thank you. Department MacGyver. She makes stuff, she sews, she repairs equipment. What is
I
that?
have no life. It's like black vanilla.
She can do anything. It's like, hey, me. But she'll say yes to everything. So it's like she has no life. She really doesn't because she's working all the time. It's terrible. She's got to learn to say no. Okay, so we purchase supplies on account. So we've got the accounts payable side of it. What's the other side? What do we get? Supplies. Do y'all know this and y'all just don't want to say anything, or are you really not sure? Okay. Did supplies increase or decrease? Okay, so look at that keyword sheet. If you need help, you've purchased something. What did you purchase? You purchased supplies. On account means no cash went out, so you know it's going to be accounts receivable or payable, so which one is it? Just kind of go through the process of elimination. All right, so on this next one, we received cash. So that tells you something right there. No balance. Received cash, what does that tell you? We got an increase in cash. Okay, so why did cash increase? Fees earned. So do we have accounts receivable or do we have income? Why is it receivable?
Oh, no.
And I'm not picking on you. I just, somehow, if you explain why you think it's that way, then I can tell you. If it's wrong, yeah, but that'll help you correct your thinking. That's my philosophy. If it's making it worse on you, so don't do that. But had it been accounts receivable, it would have said received cash from customers on account. You don't see the words on account anywhere in here or billed. You see cash and you see fees earned. It's going to be income. So we're going to say fees earned. And it did what? Increase or decrease? It increased. Okay. Y'all tracking so far?
No.
Is this process helping? I don't want to like elementary kindergarten you to death, but sometimes when you're learning this stuff, you just almost have to. Is that okay? Y'all good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Paid. What does that tell you? Cash. Cash decreased. Paid what? Rent. For the month. So that just means it's all just 1 month. We don't have anything prepaid. So what's our other side going to be? What do we pay for? No, you're not tripping. You're just going through a thought process. You might be tripping. I don't know. Okay, so rent expense, it increased. And like I've told y'all, it's done a lot of repetition and getting used to it. And how does this work? And just going through the process. A lot of times, I'm teaching you a process of thinking through it, even though it seems like I'm treating you like 2-year-olds. But if you'll get used to that thought process, it'll become natural and you won't even think about it. Paid. Paid what? Paid, what does that tell you? Cash went down, right? Okay. Paid what?
Account payable.
Receivable would say customers, because you're going to receive money, but they paid money. So that means they owed it, so that's accounts payable. Okay. So accounts payable. Did accounts payable decrease or increase? It went down. We don't owe that money anymore, so. Okay. Hint to anybody using the smart board, if you're touching it from the side, it's going to make it move. All right. So F. we billed customers. So we didn't get any cash. And what are we billing them for? Fees earned. So what's this part gonna represent? Accounts receivable. We did the work. So this is telling us we've done work, but we're having to bill them. There's no cash. So we've got to show this as our accounts receivable increasing. And what is the other part of it? Fees earned, it's increasing too, right? Because we've made money. And remember, fees earned is either gonna be cash or it's gonna be accounts receivable. Because either they're paying you now or they're paying you later. All right, so the next one, paid, cash, decrease in cash. What did they pay for? They paid for this and they paid for this. So there's two of them. All right, so our cash went down, right? And then what is the rest of it? Automobile expenses. I'm just gonna put auto. Y'all know anybody that calls them automobiles anymore? Yeah, did y'all see the old movie 16 Candles? Like the 80s version? No? Is there a new one? Surely they didn't write.
Oh, I do. I used to run on the red car.
Yeah, the red Porsche?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, that one. You did see it? You know that little Asian dude, long duck dong? He tickles me to death. But he says, you know, he got loaded and at the party and wrecked the car in the lake. And the grandfather's asking him, where is my automobile? And he says, automobile? Every time I hear the word automobile, it's like, not that y'all care, but comic relief. Okay, so our auto expense is going up, and so is our miscellaneous expense. And I'm gonna abbreviate here because we're just making notes. You're one of the few people that has seen that movie that can actually get my joke, that get what it's funny to me. I used to think that our 80s movies were relatively innocent and that the movies today are really awful. And then I go back and watch some of them and I'm like, oh, maybe not. It's your point of view at the time. All right, so I determined that cost of supplies on hand is $680. Did I skip one? Oops, it's because I wrote in the way. Dang it. I don't have enough room here. Thank you. All right, so let's do this for this one. We'll say cash decreased and auto expense and miscellaneous expense increased. Okay, so H, paid office salaries. Paid, cash, and what? Salaries, so should I? Salaries expense, salary expense, whatever, it's increasing. Okay, I determined the cost of supplies on hand was $680. You'll have to calculate how much was used. So, what does this mean that we've got this on hand? Is that what was left, or is that what we used, or what? That's what we still have, right? Okay, so we bought 1,800 up here. So we went from 1,800 to 680. So how much did we use? How much?
Is that 1120?
Heard it. I'm going with it. So we've got 1120. Now, what's that going to be? What are we doing with this? What are the two categories or accounts we're going to use to record this? What went down? Supplies went down because we used them. So what are we going to show? How are we going to show that being used? What's the category called when you use supplies? You can do it, come on. Supplies. What? Supplies, blank. You got it? Just say it. Keep saying it. Supplies expense. We're gonna move it from supplies, put it in supplies expense. Remember? Coming back in. All right, withdrew cash for personal use. Withdrew cash. What does that tell you? Money out, so our cash is decreasing, right? Where does it go? Owner what? It's called owner withdrawals, but more specifically, we'll call it, what's this dude's name? Chad Wilson. We'll call it Chad Wilson drawing. And it increased. It went up. Okay, so we've done number one. We can calculate the net income in a minute. You know what? We're going to do the income statement and all that. We'll calculate that there. All right, so this is actually a problem out of the book. That's why you have all these weird questions. If we wanted to calculate net income, how would we do that? I mean, not necessarily just from this, but what goes into that calculation? What's the formula for net income? It is. So we're going to take revenue minus expenses equals net income. Now, once we do the income statement, we'll have that answer. So we're not going to bother with that right now. Now, if we have net income, we'll know part of this answer for 3, but the statement of owner's equity will tell us this. It'll give us the answer. I'm going to say C, statement of owner's equity, because that'll give us our answer. So when we prepare that, we'll get our answer. Okay, and you can, on this one, we could say C, income statement. Okay, now they want us to prepare the financials and all that and the cash flows. But the next thing we're gonna do, we've got to summarize this stuff. Otherwise, we don't know what goes where really. We had several things happening. That's not supposed to say net solutions. That should say Wilson. I did not notice that I copied and pasted and didn't realize I had not changed the heading. So change your heading to Wilson example. Okay. So let's look at those transactions and y'all tell me, the first one, we opened a business bank account with a deposit of 30. So where are we going to show that? What did that do to our cash? So we're going to put that 30,000 on the plus side. Looks like that's not any better. And then what is the other part of it? Okay, his capital increase. So we're going to put 30,000 on the plus side. And again, remember how we got something on the right and something on the left of the T account, so we balance. That's called balance when you got something on both sides. Just think of it like a seesaw balancing or scales. Purchased office supplies on account. So our supplies went up $1,800. So we're going to put $1,800 on the plus side of our supplies, and our accounts payable went up because it was on account, right? Received cash from fees earned. We said increase our cash. So $10,000, and it also increased what? So we're going to put 10,000 on our plus side of fees earned. Can y'all see this? Is it big enough? I'll make it a little bigger. Okay. Paid rent on office and equipment for the month. Now, the fact that it says office and equipment is still rent expense, so don't let that throw you off, okay? Because they love to put crap like that in these problems just to make it confusing. All right, we're gonna show $4,500 on the increased side of our rent expense. And then we're gonna show our cash being decreased for that payment. Y'all agreeing with me so far? Paid creditors on account. So our cash decreased $12.50 because we're paying someone. And our accounts payable also decreased. Okay, we billed customers for fees earned. We said that was an increase in accounts receivable and an increase in fees. And then paid automobile expenses for the month and miscellaneous. So we've got auto expenses and we've got miscellaneous of $980. And then the total of those would be our reduction in cash. What's the total of those two? $1630. All right. 1730. 1730. Okay, so we decreased cash for paying the vehicle expenses and the miscellaneous expenses. Then we paid office salaries. So our cash went down $4,000 and our office salaries went up $4,000. Cost of supplies was $680 on hand. So we had to calculate the expense. So what was our expense? I don't remember. Y'all look on your look on your notes. How much did we decrease our supplies? Well, we know we got $680 on hand, so what was our expense? How much? I'm sorry. $1120. Okay, so we're gonna decrease our supplies and we're gonna show that our supplies expense got bigger. Dang it. I'm glad y'all know what these numbers are supposed to be because they don't. Okay. And then the last one, he withdrew cash for personal use. So we're going to show his drawing account increasing and cash decreasing. About ran out of space. Okay. So the next thing we got to do is figure out what is our balance and all this stuff. So tell me what my balance is in cash. Y'all remember how to get that? So you got 40,000 in increases. And the total of the other side in decreases. You want to turn that fan on, you turn it on. You have to put it on low so you can still hear it's hot. What'd y'all get? Anybody? What'd you get?
24,480.
Anybody else get that?
Nope.
Uh-oh. What'd y'all get?
I got 21,020.
That's what I got.
21,020? 24, you said you got 24,080?
24,480.
Okay, so we got 21,000. Somebody check it. Somebody else come back with an answer. What'd you get? Did you do it? No?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
I don't even know.
All right, so we've got a total of 40,000 on this side, right? So we have 40,000 in increases. What is our decreases number? You had what? 21. So 21,120. What'd y'all get for your total expenses, or do you have a total? Check your expenses again. You got the same thing again?
I just added up the 120.
Okay. 2120?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so 21,020 is our balance. All right, accounts receivable balance is 16,800. This one is at 680. That's what it should be.
Yeah.
And you can always check yourself by what's supposed to be on hand, because that's what you should have here. All right, what's my accounts payable? 1,800 minus 1,250. 550? Okay, and then everything else is just one number. Oh, fees earned. That one's easy though, 26,800. Okay, so let's move on. Let's do the income statement. Shouldn't take us long. What's the name of the company? Wilson, what?
Property.
Property management. Okay, so remember your company name's always gonna go on the top. If you have a problem that you're trying to do, I've seen this on tests like 100 times. If you have an owner and then she's got a company name, don't put the owner's name up there, put the company name. What's my date gonna look like? Or the month ended, so June 30. What year are we working with here? Did it tell us? It just said June, didn't it? So we'll do 2019. Okay, so what goes on this first line? What do we write down first? We're not gonna go back and finish this on Wednesday, so the further we get, the better we are. Fees earned. You're always gonna put your revenue first. Because remember, the income statement has revenues and expenses on it. And what's the difference between revenues and expenses? What's that formula tell you? What does it give you? What's the answer problem? Or no, you got it, huh? Yeah, yeah, profit and net income, net profit is the same thing. You're just gonna call it net income on here. Okay, so our fees earned was 26,800. Is that right? Look on your T accounts. Your next chapter, I don't have staples so that y'all can more easily flip. And there's nothing on the back. I didn't do that this time because you're gonna need to be able to flip and look around. You really did this time too. I should have just left them unstapled and on one side. I'm trying not to load up your notebooks with because you will by the end of the semester. But you know, I mean, you could be writing this all down from scratch. Trying to help you out. All right, so let's put this expenses header on here and we're gonna list them in what order? Yeah, greatest dollar amount to least dollar amount. What's always last? Miscellaneous. That's right. All right, so what's our greatest expense?
No.
Is it salaries?
No, right?
Is it rent? Okay. So rent expense. How much is it? Okay, so 4,500. What's next? Salaries? Now, when we start getting on into these bigger problems and stuff, a lot of times you'll find that salaries is going to be your biggest number most of the time. And that's the truth. I mean, any business, if you have a lot of employees, your paychecks are going to be your people will be your biggest expense, but they're also one of your biggest assets. So, but sometimes you get top heavy, like you have too many people at the top that makes money. That happens quite a bit in many institutions. What's our salaries expense? What? 4? Okay. Okay, what's next? Supplies expense. How much is supplies expense? 1120. If I write something down, y'all tell me if I write down wrong. What's after supplies? And honestly, you can write auto expense if you want to. Often you'll see it called vehicle expense. So how much was our auto expense? Our automobile expense? 750? It's coming. It's always got to be last. Now, if you're working on your test and you do that and you put miscellaneous in the dollar order number and then you get to the bottom and go, oops, Don't erase everything. Just draw a line to where it's supposed to go. Showing me you know that it's supposed to be at the bottom, but when you were doing it, you messed up. I don't want y'all erasing like heaps of numbers and stuff. Just if it's a total train wreck, you might have to. But if you just need to tell me a couple of things need to be reordered, you can do that drawing an arrow. Don't erase. I don't believe in that. You're wasting time that you're not gonna finish your test, you know. All right, auto expense, how much? Did y'all say $750?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, $750. What else?
And so,
Okay, so miscellaneous is last. I wish we could abbreviate, but no. Next chapter, you can abbreviate on your entries. Okay, so how much is miscellaneous? $980. So what's my total of expenses? $11,350. All right, so we're going to label that total expenses. And then now what do I do? Right, net. So what is my net? $26,800 minus $11,350. What does that give me? $15,450.
Wait, no.
Anybody else get it? Yeah.
Okay.
$15,450. Ideally, I would have all these numbers already calculated, but time does not always permit. Okay, so what goes on this first line of statement is owner's equity? Wilson Property Management. What's the date look like? It's what?
It's the same as the income.
It's the same as the income statement. Now, the one with the specific date, you're talking about the balance sheet. That stuff, if you're having trouble, remember it on your memory aid. And the way I'll probably have to do y'all's test, since you only have 50 minutes, is you'll probably have like your multiple choice one day and your problems another day. That's what I did last semester at work. Because the other classes all have an hour and 15 minutes. All right, what goes on the first line here? Oh, remember, woo, not that. It's crazy. Chad Wilson, capital, as of when? The first. So we're going to say June 1. I told y'all this is a new business. So what's going to be his capital as of June 1? 0. So the next thing we're going to put on here is owner investments. Then we'll put net income. And then we'll put owner withdrawals. So let's fill those numbers in. How much was our owner's investment? $30,000. How much was our net income? Right. 15,450. Am I rubbing off on you? Y'all don't pick up my bad habits. Owner withdrawals. How much did he draw out? Okay, so he took out 7,500. Don't forget to put this in parentheses, showing that it needs to be subtracted from the other numbers when you get your total. If you don't subtract that, it's going to screw everything up. And if you don't show it as a subtraction, somebody reading it's not going to realize that it's supposed to be a subtraction. Okay, what's the difference here? What am I getting? $37,950. Okay, and then since we don't have any beginning capital, that will also be our total there. and our ending capital. So we'll say Chad Wilson, capital, June 30. And remember to label that 3750, 950 positive number as an increase in owner's equity. You got it? I don't really have time to do the balance sheet. But I can complete the balance sheet and the statement of cash flows and post it in the modules if you would like me to do that. Because next time, y'all got some homework similar to this, and then next time we are moving into chapter 2. I'm probably just gonna go ahead and give you these worksheets. You can grab them as you go out if you want. And then, it wouldn't hurt you to read it, but this first little part, we're gonna go over in class anyway, so just do your homework problems. That'll keep you busy enough. And my plan is to post the discussion again. I gotta get your other ones. I think I'm great at y'all. I've got to get finished grading all those from the first week. But I think one discussion per chapter is probably where we're gonna stick. Y'all can go. I mean, don't. I'm just chatting on you to you as you're walking out the door. But grab one of these on your way out. You're welcome. Y'all aren't gonna lose these because I didn't give them to you while you're still sitting here, are you? Is this a bad time to do that? Sure. Right down there at the end of the hall. Yeah, I know. I should. Once I started doing that, I thought that was a bad idea. I should have made a whole lot of extra copies. I usually have extra ones, so somebody's gonna lose it.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye, live stream people. Have a good day. I'll get back to you. Here we go. Where are we? How do I stop this thing?